World War I. World War I began July 28, 1914. The war pitted Germany and its allies against England and its allies, including the United States. Facing dwindling resources on the battlefield, disconnected at the home front, surrendering to its allies, Germany was finally forced to seek an armistice on November 11, 1918, ending World War I. World War I took the life of more than 9 million soldiers, 21 million more were wounded. Veterans Day was first called Armistice Day to commemorate the ending of World War I. It was first proclaimed by Woodrow Wilson on November 11, 1919. A World War II veteran, Raymond Weeks, worked tirelessly starting in 1945 to expand Armistice Day to include all veterans.
Hitler's invasion of Poland in September 1939 drove Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany, and World War II had begun. Over the next 6 years, the conflict would take more lives and destroy more land and property around the globe than any previous war. Coming just 2 decades after the last great global conflict, the Second World War was the most widespread and deadliest war in history, involving more than 30 countries and resulting in more than 50 million military and civilian deaths.
The Korean War. The Korean War began on June 25, 1950, when some 75,000 soldiers from the North Korean People's Army poured across the 38th parallel, the boundary between the Soviet-backed North and the pro-Western South of Korea. There were 58,307 U.S. deaths in the war. More than 7,800 American soldiers were still unaccounted for from the Korean War as of April 2015.
Vietnam War. With the Cold War intensifying, the United States hardened its policies against any allies of the Soviet Union, and by 1955, President Dwight D. Eisenhower had pledged his firm support to DM South Vietnam. The Vietnam War was a long, costly armed conflict that pitted the communist region of North Vietnam and its southern allies, known as the Viet Cong, against South Vietnam and its principal ally, the United States. 58,000 Americans were killed in the conflict. The war ended with the withdrawal of U.S. forces in 1973 and the unification of Vietnam under communist control 2 years later.
The Persian Gulf War, August 2, 1990. The invasion of the Kuwait by Iraq shocked the nation. President Bush thought of this as a direct threat to our international system. He decided to take action. The Persian Gulf War is not a declared war. It's a UN and United States action. There were many others that took stand, including the United Nations and several Arab countries. Kuwait and Iran suffered enormous casualties. Sadly, there were 148 U.S. soldiers killed in action and 458 were wounded. Kuwait and its allies came out victorious, winning back their beloved country on February 28, 1991.
The war in Afghanistan is the period in which the United States invaded Afghanistan after the September 11th attacks. Key allies, including the United Kingdom, supported the U.S. from the start to the end of the phase. This phase of the war is the longest war in United States history. October 7, 2001, it launched Operation Enduring Freedom with the United Kingdom. The UK officially commemorated the end of its role in the Afghan War in a ceremony held in St. Paul's Cathedral on 13th of March 2015. Although there was a formal end of combat operations, partially due to improved relations between the United States and the Ghani presidency, American forces increased raids against Islamist militants, justified by a broad interpretation of protecting American forces.
The Iraq War. On March 19, 2003, the United States, along with the coalition forces primarily from the United Kingdom, initiates war in Iraq. The protracted war between these neighboring Middle Eastern countries resulted in at least 500,000 casualties and several $1 billion worth of damage, but no real gains by either side. The total passings during the war in Iraq, including combat so far, are 225,000 through 500,000. The war started because of the armed conflict in Iraq prior to the war. The government of the United States and the United Kingdom claimed that Iraq's alleged possession of weapons of mass destruction posed a threat to the coalition regional allies.